Lebanon's uprising that kicked off last October, you could argue, has exacted some real change in the country. There is a new government and a new prime minister. But one thing remains the same, and that is the economy. It is spiralling downward on the brink of collapse. Inflation rising, unemployment rampant, and the currency losing value. As CNN's Ben Wiedemann reports, all of this is so alarming that Lebanon's new government brought in the IMF and UN representatives for talks over the weekend, hoping for some expert advice on how to avoid a total economic meltdown.
4 months ago, the heart of Beirut was crammed with protesters, demanding the fall of the old political elite. Today, the crowds are gone. The state has done its best to wall itself off from the street, but occasional clashes between protesters and security forces have shown just how fragile those walls are. Lebanon's smoldering winter of discontent may be followed by a spring of rage.
The danger of hunger is still at its beginning.
Veteran economist Kamal Hamdan warns the already sputtering economy will soon fall into the abyss.
At that moment, I think Lebanese will be at the peak in terms of hunger, in terms of maybe unrest, degradation of security conditions, massive migration.
Mark Derrido recently lost his job and now scrapes by selling sandwiches in Martyrs Square, the epicenter of Beirut's protests. He and others have posted copies of their university diplomas on the barricades down the street from the Prime Minister's office. This uprising, he says, is his last hope. If the revolution fails, Mark tells me, all young people will emigrate, including me. We can't live here. We have potential, but this country gives us no opportunities. The country, once lauded as the Switzerland of the Middle East, is on the verge of becoming a failed state. The Lebanese currency, the lira, has lost more than 60% of its value against the dollar on the black market, in a country that imports more than 80% of what it consumes. According to the Lebanese Consumers Association, prices have skyrocketed by around 45% since the outbreak of mass protests last October, while in the same period, average monthly salaries have plummeted by 40%. A new government promises to rapidly address the crisis by reducing interest rates, restructuring the public sector, and soliciting help from foreign donors. But activist Rania al-Masri, like many others, has no faith the politicians can avert catastrophe.
So long as they are in charge, the economic collapse will continue, the hunger will only escalate, and the way that hunger will get presented in the streets may be violent. It may be destructive, and all of that destruction that could erupt will be the responsibility of those political parties that refused to listen to us when we told them we were going to face an economic bankruptcy.
The moment of reckoning is not a question of if, but only when. Ben Wiedemann, CNN, Beirut.
When you walk around the streets of Lebanon, they are awash with far more than political stresses. There's an easy charm to the wandering, visiting eye, an elegant yet casual style to it all. And much of it comes thanks to the city's creative forces. They've been painting police barricades, singing for change, and naturally making movies. Munia Akel co-directed the documentary The Lebanon I Dream Of. Have a look at this.
We made the film The Lebanon I Dream Of to remind people why we took it to the streets. It was a really powerful human experience, just being able to talk to people about the Lebanon that they wish existed.
لبنان اللي بيحلم فيه هو اللي عم يحكوا فيه كل الشباب اللي على الساحات هلا.
أنا بلبنان يكون معي ديون.
I think some powerful images to me are the images of the Women's March. images of the elderly taking part in this march, these are people who haven't had the privilege to say we're in pain for such a long time. It's the first time that a revolution is mixing people who have never been in the same place before. We're just tired of being the victim of a political class that exploits us. Like, we're not allowed to have dreams because we're fighting a fight that's not ours.
And Becky Andersen.